Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Monday, December 11th. We are back. In-season tournament's over. We got 13 games to go over today. It's a giant slate. A lot of DFS going on today. Now, before we get into it, please come join us at LionStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS for all the sports we cover. And also, please like, comment, and subscribe to the videos. Helps us a ton to just keep giving you guys more and more free content for free. Now, let's get into this Mondo slate. 13 games on the docket. We got a lot to cover. A lot of different ways all the games can go. And definitely some injury news to pay attention to throughout the day, as we really have no idea what's going to go on. Most of these teams, haven't played since Friday, because in-season tournament was Saturday, no games were Sunday, so a lot of days off and only practice reports kind of to go off. So getting into point guard, so highest owned point guard on the slate is Fred VanVleet. Then we got Cade Cunningham and Cason Wallace. Followed by Luka. Luka very likely ends up being one of the highest owned guys. There's no Kyrie Irving. Anytime there's no Kyrie, obviously Luka stands to benefit quite a bit. Fred VanVleet, I do like a lot. I'm going to get more of him than 18%. And he's in a very good game environment versus Spurs. Spurs just haven't been able to stop anybody. Do not mind going to FVV, who has been playing a ton of minutes. Cade Cunningham versus the Pacers, who don't like to play defense. They just like to straight up outscore everybody. So makes sense to want to go to one of the main offensive weapons on the Detroit side. However, they are going to lose again because that's just what they do. They have not won a game since October 28th. Man, that's terrible. Oh, poor Cade Cunningham. All right, some pivots that I do like. I like Terry Rozier. It's versus the Heat. There is no Bam Adebayo. Kyle Lowry is also questionable, and if Lowry is out, that's going to hurt their defense to the point guard quite a bit. But Rozier has just been good without ball. He's averaging in the 40 fantasy points per game area, and I do not mind continue to attack his 8.3 salary. I think there's just too many ways that is able to pay off, even versus a tough matchup like the Heat. Dante Exum, man, his price jumped up, but for good reason. He's just got a ton of usage without Kyrie, and he's playing almost that Kyrie role. So I don't mind going there at super low ownership and hoping he can kind of recreate that game versus Portland that he had. Can he do it? I don't know, but I don't mind taking a few shots when he's going this low owned. And look, you got to include Tyrese Halliburton in this. However, that price is way up there. At almost $12K, I would rather go to Luka Doncic, who isn't too much more, but at low ownership in a decent matchup, you got to consider it. Now, point guard on DraftKings, highest owned, we got Luka, we got Giddey, and we got Halliburton. Halliburton is a little cheaper on DraftKings. It makes sense why people are going there, but Luka should be your main target, I believe. Giddey, look, his minutes just haven't really been there lately. I would have absolutely loved this if he was playing 28 minutes, kind of like he was all season long, and he's just not simply playing that right now. So I do have a little bit of a difficulty getting to him at a little bit higher ownership. Jared Butler's popping up a little bit. I just don't think he plays the minutes. Can't really get there. I do like Fred VanVleet. We talked about that. And matchup tool on a point guard. Keith George is in a great matchup. Kobe White is an interesting one. There's no Levine still. Minutes are somewhat secure without Levine. So I think it's interesting going to White a little bit in what is perceived to be a pretty good matchup. White has just been crushing it lately. His salary isn't too crazy for me to want to get there. But the upside is gone a little bit at his salary. So he can get 6x, but 7-8x is going to be pretty difficult for him at this salary, and that's my reservation with him. Dinwiddie is a little interesting as well. With Dennis Smith out, his minutes should be a little more secure, and hopefully he's able to get into that 34-minute area. And in a high-scoring late game, it's a bit interesting. SGA is always interesting. Guy has just been crushing it all year. And a great matchup. The only worry here is, do they just blow him out? It's a 13-point game total. This is one of those spots where I wouldn't mind a little mini correlation if I'm going to go with SGA. Maybe have two guys from Utah running it back. They are a little beat up by injury. There is some value on that team. In the case that they are able to keep it close, and SGA is able to kind of get more of a ceiling type game. Don't mind going that way with it. And on to shooting guards. So highest owned shooting guards, we got Desmond Bane, we got Cade, we got Wallace. We talked about Rozier. One guy we have not talked about, Malik Beasley. He has shown, some nice little upside at a 5K salary. If you're able to get into the upper 30s at 5K, it's a very, very interesting spot. It's 7X essentially, and 7-8X is really what you need to win a GPP, and he can get you there. It's just not often that it happens. So I don't mind taking some swings here. I don't absolutely love the play. It's the reason why he's a lower owned play, but I think he's interesting. Max Strus. All right, I like Strus a lot. We have no Mobley, so Strus may play a little bit more on the boards this game, as they will need help down there, and he's a guy that's going to play a little bit, gets a little bit of a usage bump without Mobley, so I am interested in some Strus, but, it's an upside play. You don't really know how that one's going to shake out. Don't mind going there. Desmond Bane, I do like a lot, and I'm going to get to a lot of him, as we have a ton, over the last few weeks. But Dallas Mavericks tend to get into high-scoring games, and if the Grizzlies are able to stay close, it's likely because Bane is playing well. Mid-40s, definitely a possibility, but the thing that I like with Bane is he does have the ability to get into 60, 70, so I don't mind going there. Now, with him being higher owned and at 8.6K, there is a reason to want to fade him a little bit at least, but the ceiling is there that I really, really like at his price. It's just, can he get there today? Without Irving, the game does project to be a closer game, so it's an interesting play. I don't mind going there whatsoever. Now, on to DraftKings. Shooting guard high owned, we got Bane, Seth Curry, and Isaiah Joe. So, without Irving, Curry likely does play a little bit more. He, is getting 18, 20 minutes. The one game he started, he got up to 36. But I wouldn't expect that to happen. If he can get over the 22, 24-minute spot, he's pretty interesting. Right now, we have him projected at 28, and it's just, does he get hot or not? He is a guy that can fill up the basket, and Grizzlies have been pretty bad at defending the three-point line, so there's some interest there. I don't love it. Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort is out, so he likely does step into a little bit extra minutes. While I don't think he starts, maybe he plays a few more minutes off the bench, which is definitely interesting because then his fantasy points per minute is likely going to be higher than if he is starting. He's just not going to play as many minutes. But I do think he's interesting. We have him at 23 minutes. If he's able to get 24, 26, he could definitely pay off his 18 or his 4K salary. It's just, does he actually get there? Not really sure. Tim Hardaway, I haven't brought up, and I absolutely need to. Any game that doesn't have Irving or Doncic, Hardaway ends up being a guy you want to consider. He can just shoot the ball a lot and score some fantasy points, and very, very easily it could be a Hardaway game and not Exum game, and Hardaway still is priced, decently. I also do not mind Donovan Mitchell, who, without Mobley, gets a real nice bump up, similar to without Garland. And we know earlier this season what Mitchell was doing without Garland. So I think he is an interesting play at 9.5K that not many people are going there. And matchup-wise, we got Brandon Miller coming at the very top. I've been riding his train for a little while. He is 6K. I don't like it quite as much because that's really the ceiling that we've seen lately. But I do think he's interesting. Mitchell's up there. Obviously, I just talked about him. Melton is an interesting one to me in a pace-up spot. Don't mind getting there a little bit. And Desmond Bane right here, high-owned guy that we like. So, into small forward, we got Bane, we got Jimmy B, we got Bojan Bogdanovic, and Keegan Murray. Jimmy B, I don't mind getting to at all. Bam is out. He gets a usage bump there. We also have Haywood Highsmith out. And then Lowry is questionable. And look, if Lowry doesn't play, I think Butler is way more interesting. Butler is just simply going to have to carry the ball and be more of a point forward than we're usually used to seeing. I definitely would like his assist props without Lowry, just because the ball is going to be in his hand a little bit more, and he's a playmaker. Also, without Bam and Hero, he's just going to be asked to do more, and I think he's going to have to try a little bit more without Lowry there. The issue with Jimmy B is he can just be not too into the game at times when it's a regular season game. Bojan is fine. His price is just up there a little bit. I think Kyle Kuzma is interesting. Look, they've played Philly a couple times this year. 32, 42 fantasy points in the two games. I don't mind going there at his 7.7K salary. We know he has the upside, and he can be in 40s regularly. And with this game being another high-paced, high-scoring game, but major blowout situations, another spot where I don't mind some kind of mini game correlation here. If you want to play Embiid, you're likely going to have somebody from the Wizards kind of step up and keep them in this game a little bit for Embiid to truly hit his ceiling. Jaquez, guy's been playing very good. 5.8K salary isn't too bad. My issue is that there's just not a lot left on for the ceiling for him. Now he's playing 34, 35 minutes regularly. He's just going to really need to play well to pay off this salary. And we haven't seen him really get kind of the rebounds and assists we need for him to have a huge ceiling at this price. I don't mind going there, though. Beasley we talked about, Strus we talked about, and let's get over to DraftKings. Highest owned small forwards, we got Bane, Isaiah Joe, and Bojan. All three we have talked about. Kawhi Leonard we didn't talk about, but at 8.1K versus the Trailblazers, you got to be a little bit interested for a guy that we've seen show, his 50s, 60-point ceiling recently. So I do not mind going there. And matchups, Bojan, Harrison Barnes, Tobias Harris, Porter, Middleton, all at the top. Do want to bring up Middleton here real quick because last game he played 30 minutes. He has started to play more, 26, 28 plus minutes, and That's super interesting because he is a very good fantasy producer when he gets the minutes. If he's up to 30 again at 6,300, I'm super interested. The issue is that we don't know if he goes back to 26, 28, or if we see 30. But definitely interested in the one thing that was the in-season tournament that he played 30, so maybe they just let him play a little bit extra because it was in that kind of knockout round. So don't totally know there, but it's at least an interesting angle to think about and decide what you want to do with. Power forward, Isaiah Hartenstein, Jimmy B, Bojan. We got to talk about Hartenstein first. Look, he's going to likely be the starting center. Mitchell Robinson's going to be out. If he gets 28, 29 minutes at his salary, he's interesting. When he starts, he's, right around 0.95, 1 fantasy point per minute. And if he gets that allotment of minutes, very real chance he's paying off a 4,900 salary. And don't mind going there. Other ones, Kyle Kuzma. But I really want to talk about Isaiah Stewart here. So I think Stewart's going to end up starting at the center position. And at center, he just produces a lot better. And in a pace-up spot against the Pacers, I'm super intrigued here. So Jalen Duren's out. Bagley is doubtful. And, one thing they could do is throw Wiseman in there to start, but I just don't think they're going to do that. He hasn't been playing much. With Bojan back, it's easy to slide Bojan in the 4, Stewart in the 5, and just run it that way, and that would be my guess how they do it. And if he's starting at center, I'm going to probably have a lot of them because I think a chance of 30 or mid-30s is a real possibility, and I don't mind it at low ownership. And a little bit of a salary saver. Caleb Martin, look, his salary is up to 6K, but I'm still biting there. It's a great matchup versus the Hornets. Last 2 games he started, 33 and 46 points from the playoff run he had last year. We know he has some upside when he gets going, and the minutes are going to be there. Haywood's out, Bam's out. Caleb has been the starter in the last 2. That has happened. As long as this game isn't a blowout, I think he gets, 32, 34 minutes. And he can produce. He can get the rebounds. He can shoot the ball well. It's just a matter of does it all come together today, which I wish I could always tell you. And over to DraftKings power forward. Sims, Bojan, and Kawhi Leonard. So, Sims hasn't been playing. I would assume that he is coming up here because somebody's talking about him playing extra minutes. We have him only at 18. If he played, 20, 22, he's in consideration. At 18 minutes, I don't like it. If he gets additional, he's kind of interesting, but, it's a punt play to me. Bojan, we talked about. Kawhi is fine. Bojan, I do think, is pretty interesting. Starting the last 2, he's around 30 minutes per game. If he's at power forward instead of small forward, maybe an extra rebound or something, and a little bit easier to kind of score some points there. And matchup tool, Aaron Gordon, Julius Randle. I do think Julius Randle is going a little overlooked today. Low owned, has a nice ceiling, only 8.6K and can put up, 60. So I think anytime that's the situation, you got to be at least intrigued. And I definitely am when so many different power forwards have gone off. We just talked about Caleb Martin putting up 49 versus them. Miles Bridges, 41. Randall, 47 only a few games ago. KD, I think it makes a lot of sense going to Randall. And I should try and probably force a little bit more to get a little bit more of him. So I do not mind that whatsoever. And lastly, let's get to center. So Hartenstein, Alperen Sengun, and Nick Richards. So it was just announced that Mark Williams will be out. So I think Nick Richards is very interesting, and I'm probably going to get a lot of him. His ownership's likely going to go up a little bit now that it is official that he is out. But look, the one game he started this year, 29 fantasy points in 28 minutes. And he's definitely able to do that if he gets the minutes, which he should. I would expect 28 from him in this spot. If he gets any additional, he's going to crush. And he is a guy that can really, really produce on a fantasy side in a short amount of time. Wiseman we talked about a little bit. If he's starter, I think you kind of got to roll with him just because we've seen him have the ability to do 0.95 or a minute fantasy points per minute. But it's just, is he going to get the minutes? And without him being starter, really, really hard to predict that. But I think Stewart likely ends up being the starting center. But time will tell once the lineups drop. Omer Yurtseven, I am shocked he's not higher owned right now. So Walker Kessler is out. Lauri Markkanen is out. John Collins has a illness and is questionable. So we don't really know what's going on. But without Walker Kessler, there's a real path to Yurtseven getting more minutes. And if he starts and plays 27 minutes, or even just gets over 24, I think he is super, super interesting. Really hard right now to know how many minutes he's going to play, because as a starter, he's only been usually around 22. But with their injuries, being well rested, maybe he gets a little bit more. And if he's in that 26 to 28 range, he's going to blow out his 4.4K salary, and do not mind going there whatsoever. I don't mind going to Orlando Robinson either. 5.4K is still okay. I mean, look, 28 minutes, 35, 26, 30, 29, 26, 33 minutes, 46. He can and has the ability to score some fantasy points, especially without Mark Williams on the other side. Definitely makes it a little bit more interesting. And DraftKings highest owned centers, we got Richards, Muscala, and Sims. I'm glad Muscala's up here so we can talk about him. Look, on DK with him being 3K, makes a lot of sense to go there. It is Embiid on the other side, so I would be surprised if they did not start Muscala, because they don't really have another guy that can start and play minutes. They have Gallinari, but you're not going to get a ton of minutes from Gallinari at this stage in his career. So I think Muscala playing minutes does make some sense. It's just, does he play enough to really break the slate? 18 minutes, scored 23, 22, scored 17. He can score fantasy points. We're just going to have to wait and see if he's the starter. Don't mind it. Don't hate it. I just have a hard time allocating minutes to the center position for Washington today with Gafford out. Sims, I absolutely love Jokic today. The one issue is there's a lot of value out there for the center position. And if you're taking Jokic, you likely aren't taking some of that value. And, it could make it a little hard to kind of build your lineups without that value. So while I do really like Jokic, and I'm going to try and get him in, I don't know how much I'm going to end up getting. Going to the matchup tool, Wemby. If Wemby is starting at center again, you absolutely have to consider him. He had 20 boards last time out versus the Bulls. And like Denver, or like Detroit, they haven't won since November 2nd. So they're in a big time losing streak. They do need to figure out something to figure out how to win some games. And maybe just moving Wemby to the C center position is the way to do it. I definitely like his upside at that spot, and I will be taking him a little bit if I see him at center. Sengun is just a weekly or daily consideration at this point. Guy is just producing at such an elite level that hard to say no when he's only 9K and he has a 60-point ceiling. Vooch, anytime that DeRozan or Levine is out, Vooch's minutes get a little bit more secure and he becomes a little bit more of a factor in the offense. And when he is involved, the guy produces at a real solid level. And with getting that kind of minutes, you got to be a little bit interested. The thing is, the Bulls are terrible, and can they stay in the game? You know, they've been playing a little bit better lately. They did beat Milwaukee, a couple weeks ago. So if they're able to stay in this game, I think you got to at least consider some Vooch. Kelly Olynyk, look, we're not sure if he's going to start, if Omar's going to start, what's going to happen. But if he's going to get the minutes, he's interesting. As of now, I don't think he gets the minutes, so we'll see. I mean, Embiid's an obvious one versus Washington, right? 76 and 80 so far this season. The one thing I did say earlier is this is a game that I would want some sort of mini correlation. The game is going to need to stay relatively close for him to really pay off this salary. Versus Washington, first game, he put up 48 points. Now, it was a blowout, but he put up 48 in only 31 minutes. The second game, he put up 50 in 38 minutes, but that game stayed close. That is how he's able to get the 50 points and get to 80 fantasy points. So that is kind of the moral of the story, is that even though it is a big spread, somebody on the other side is going to have to score to really unlock that Embiid ceiling. And that'll do it for us today. All in all, thank you guys for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow. I think it's only a 5-game slate tomorrow, but have a good one. Good luck. Please like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.